A dream does not always show you who you are. Sometimes it shows you who had to be left outside. For instance, imagine you're in a house at night. The rooms are familiar, but something about the floor plan is wrong. A hallway bends where it should be straight. A door appears where no door has ever been. Somewhere behind you, a figure is moving through the dark. You don't see its face, you only know it's coming closer. The body understands before the mind does. You run. The house narrows, the figure follows. A shadow figure in a dream often appears as a threat because it carries a part of the self the waking personality has refused to recognize. The frightening figure in a dream is rarely frightening only because of how it looks. A monster can be terrifying, but so can a stranger in an ordinary coat. A silent child at the end of a hallway can disturb us more than a demon. A familiar person can feel wrong without saying a word. Dreams frighten us through relation. Who is behind you? Who won't leave? Who stands in the doorway? Who knows where you live? That is why dreams where you're being chased can feel so intimate. The figure does not simply appear somewhere in the dream. It knows the shape of the dreamer's world. It follows through the rooms. It turns the same corners. It seems to understand the house from the inside. At first, the dreamer may think the problem is escape. Find the stairs. Find the window. Find the front door. Wake before the figure arrives. Yet the dream keeps arranging the house, preventing escape. The hallways lengthen. The door won't open. The stairs return to the same landing. The room that should lead outside becomes another room deeper in the house. The figure is still frightening, but another problem has appeared. The dream is not only asking why something follows you, it's asking why there is nowhere in the house where it can escape. A dream house often feels like a map of the inner life. It has public rooms and private rooms, bright rooms and closed rooms, rooms you recognize and rooms you didn't know were there. In that kind of dream, the figure you avoid may not be an intruder from outside the house. It may be what the house was built to exclude. Carl Jung called this hidden region the shadow. The word can mislead us if we make it too simple, but the shadow is not merely evil. It's not the villain of the personality or the little monster hiding in the basement waiting to ruin everything good. The shadow is made of what the conscious self does not want to claim. That is why shadow work at its best is not about inventing a darker personality or hunting for flaws. It's the slower practice of noticing what the self has learned to disown and asking how it returns. That can include cruelty, envy, resentment, selfishness, and rage. It can include impulses that need attention, restraint, and form. It can also include strength, desire, play, grief, instinct, creative force, the ability to say no, the ability to disappoint someone, the ability to want something without apologizing for wanting it. A person can reject what is shameful, but a person can also reject what is alive. This is why the shadow so often arrives with force. The rejected part of the self does not disappear because the waking personality has no approved language for it. It falls out of the story the person tells about who they are. A reasonable person may banish anger. A helpful person may banish need. A peaceful person may banish conflict. A controlled person may banish desire. A good person may exile everything that feels too wild to fit inside their purity. The shadow is not simply what we hide from others, it's what we hide from ourselves by becoming someone more acceptable. In waking life, this can look like virtue, composure, discipline, politeness, maturity, self-control. In dreams, the cost may take on the figure of a body. The anger becomes a stranger behind you. The grief becomes a flooded room. The hunger becomes an animal at the door. The forbidden becomes a locked jaw, a locked house, a locked room you can't enter. The shadow appears darkened because it has not been illuminated, and not because it has no place in the self. Long before modern psychology gave the shadow a name, old stories gave it form. A hero enters a forest. A saint is surrounded by demons. A traveler meets a beast at the threshold. A child is warned not to open the forbidden room. These stories are not identical, but many of them share a structure. The human being meets something disowned, animalistic, forbidden, or strange, and the encounter cannot be avoided forever. Think of the old image of St. Anthony in the desert surrounded by monsters. These monsters are grotesque. They claw at him. They mock him. They crowd the air with wings, teeth, horns, and faces that should not belong together. On the surface, the image is religious temptation. The holy man is being attacked by demons. Psychologically, the image also shows a person surrounded by everything his conscious identity cannot include. The desert is supposed to be empty. It becomes crowded. The saint is supposed to be purified. He becomes besieged. The monsters are not polite. They do not arrive as arguments. They arrive as images. That is what makes the old picture useful for dreams. A dream rarely says, you have rejected your anger, or you have made yourself too small, or your desire has become distorted because it has no place to speak. Instead, it sends a figure. The figure may be ugly because the relation to it has become ugly. It may be violent because it has only been known as danger. It may be an animal because instinct has been treated as something beneath the person. It may be masked because the dreamer cannot yet see its face. In old stories, the monster often guards a threshold, whether that's a cave, a gate, a bridge, a forbidden room, a treasure, a passage underground. The monster is not only an obstacle, it marks the place where the known world ends. That is why the shadow is so difficult in dreams. It does not merely threaten the dreamer's safety, it threatens the dreamer's self-image. It stands near the doorway between the person one has learned to be and the person one has refused to become. A shadow dream often begins with a simple emotional fact. Something in the dream feels unacceptable, not merely unpleasant or inconvenient. Unacceptable. The figure is too angry, too needy, too sexual, too childish, too weak, too powerful, too ugly, too loud, too exposed, too much. The dreamer may not think those words in the dream, but the body knows them. The body runs as if contact would contaminate it. That reaction is part of the dream's meaning. Take the dream of a furious stranger. Imagine a man who keeps dreaming that he's being chased through a parking garage by someone violent and unknown. The stranger never speaks, he only follows. Every turn leads to another concrete pillar, another row of cars, another locked stairwell door. In waking life, this man is known as calm, reasonable, easy to work with. He doesn't argue in meetings, he doesn't confront his friends, he doesn't tell his family when he feels hurt. By daylight, anger has almost no place in his self-image. So at night, anger arrives as someone else. At first, the dream seems simple. He's being pursued by danger. If the pattern repeats, another reading begins to appear. The stranger may not be a warning about violence outside him. The stranger may be carrying the anger he has never allowed himself to directly meet. The dream does not ask him to be violent. It asks why his own anger has become so foreign that it can only approach him as an attacker. The more precise question is not, what does a violent stranger mean? The more precise question is, what relationship does the dreamer have with anger? Do they allow anger in their lives? Is anger always dangerous? Is anger only permitted when it belongs to someone else? Has anger been confused with cruelty? Has saying no been treated as betrayal? A person who cannot own anger may meet it as pursuit, not because anger is noble, not because every impulse should be obeyed, but because what has no conscious form often returns in a distorted figure. A fire in the hearth warms the house. A fire in the hallway destroys it. The same is true of need. If need has been exiled, the dream may give it the image of a starving animal, a crying child, a beggar at the door. a creature that won't stop following. The dreamer may feel disgust, irritation, or even panic. Beneath those feelings may be a rejected dependence, a wish to be healed, a hunger that could not be admitted without shame. The same is true of desire. A dream may stage desire as danger when the waking personality has treated wanting as a loss of control. The unwanted figure becomes seductive, invasive, embarrassing, or impossible to ignore. This does not mean the dream is asking for surrender. A shadow figure is not automatically wise. It's not automatically safe. It may carry real destructiveness because rejected material often returns without proportion. The work is not obedience. The work is recognition. To recognize the shadow is to say this too belongs to the life of the psyche, even if it cannot be allowed to rule the house. And that distinction matters. The figure in the dream may not need to be followed. It may not need to be trusted. It may not need to be loved. It may first need to be seen clearly enough that it no longer has to arrive only in the form of terror. A dream can begin with a chase and slowly change into an encounter. In one dream, the figure is behind you. In another, it's across the room. Later, it speaks, and even later still, it may lose the mask. The dream image changes as the relation changes. A single dream can be powerful, but a pattern can be revelatory. One nightmare may show fear, but a sequence of dreams may show what kind of fear has been organizing the house. The question after a shadow dream is not how do I get rid of this figure? That question may be too loyal to the original fear. Better question might be, what has this figure been carrying because I would not carry it consciously? If it chased you, what did it never get to say? If it stood in the doorway, what room was it trying to enter? If it wore a mask, what feeling became safer when it had no face? If it frightened you, was the danger in the figure itself, or in what recognizing it would change about the story you tell about yourself? Shadow work does not begin by trying to become darker, deeper, or more interesting. It begins with the quieter question: what part of me keeps appearing as someone else? These are not questions for quick answers. The shadow does not usually become clear because we name it once. It becomes clearer through return, variation, and attention. Notice the setting. Where does the figure appear? Is it a childhood home, a workplace, a school, a bedroom, a basement, a street at night? Notice the body. Did you run, freeze, hide, attack, negotiate, laugh? Did you wake up? Also notice the relation. Does the figure follow you, watch you, accuse you, imitate you, guide you, wait for you? Then notice whether it returns in another form. The same shadow may not keep the same face. One night, it's a stranger. Another night, it could be a dog at the fence. Another night, it's a locked room with breathing behind the door. The image changes, but the pressure remains the same. Nightly Echoes was built for this kind of shadow work. Not a single exercise, not a quick label, but the patience of noticing what returns. The figure that changes costumes, but keeps arriving at the same thresholds. The room that appears in different dreams. The feeling that takes a new body each night. It's a dream journal for following the symbols, figures, and emotional patterns that appear across many nights, so a dream is not treated as a single message to be decoded and then discarded. A shadow dream may begin as fear. Over time, it may become a record of what the self is trying to return. You can explore your own recurring dream figures at nightlyechoes.com. The house is quiet again. The hallway is still narrow. The door is still closed. Behind you, the footsteps have stopped. For the first time, the figure is not chasing. Instead, it's waiting. When you finally turn, whose face will the dream be wearing? Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure to like and subscribe for more dream content.